All right. Well, welcome into another episode of the Countersim podcast. This is episode number 61. And my name is Jamie Joyner, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Mr. Matthew Lacey. How are you?
Hi, Jamie. I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing really well, thank you. I would, at this point, normally introduce our wonderful third co-host on the podcast, but alas, he's not with us today. He is having a well-deserved break after flying across to the other side of the world to play a very awesome show in Malaysia. And hopefully we're going to hear a little bit more about that next episode. So yeah, really looking forward to that. We hope that he's having a good little bit of rest from his long flights.
He says he's resting. He might be in quarantine for all we know. I don't know. Somewhere.
But no, it's super cool. But yeah, it's just me and you, Matt.
It is.
So yeah, everyone is stuck with us, which is going to be fun, I'm sure.
Yeah. No, it is. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So we've got a few things that we want to talk about this evening. I thought we'd jump in with our usual segment because there is a little bit of exciting news in terms of something new and something that you have purchased over the last week. Which kind of ties in with the exciting news from a couple of episodes ago as well. So
double whammy of exciting news.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's something new. So yeah, I got another wonderful drum case from Protection Racket in the week. So I got myself a combination snare drum and bass drum pedal case. I know you've got one, Joe, haven't you? Because you posted about, and I think it's been a weird because I've seen so many photos
coming out online quite recently.
It's been a lot. AJ, thanks again, AJ, for coming back, for being on episode 60. Go and check that episode out if you've not done so already. AJ posted about his. The fact that you could get loads of bottles of water in it as well and everything. Mm-hmm. And I just ordered mine. It turned up. I got some more fantastic service from Yamaha Music London. They get it to me in like 24 hours or like a day and a half or whatever. So I got that case and I wanted it because I got a gig. I had a city centre gig on Saturday just gone. And I was going to have to park. It was a pedestrianised zone, double yellows, all that stuff. So I wanted to park in a car park about a 10-minute walk away and walk up with it.
And breakables only, was it?
It's a backline gig, breakables only. Brilliant. So I got my cymbal case and I've got this new case, which I got my snare drum in, and I chose the single pedal option. They do a double pedal option as well. Oh, yeah. And it takes my 6.5, I think it'll take a 7. It takes my 6.5 inch snare. Plus, it's got an extra little pocket for like spares and cymbal felts.
They've really thought about it, haven't they? They know just the sort of things you need.
Yeah, and so go and check them out because having that as a rucksack, so it's got a shoulder strap and a rucksack, as you know, Jay. It's got the rucksack option as well, straps, and I got a cowbell in there as well, and 3 beaters and a spare head and an ozone like damping ring and a couple of
because there's like another flap, isn't there, in the main compartment? You put your snare in and then you can put down, it's like a fleece lined lid. And then on top of that you put your dampeners, and I mean I chuck like set lists and things like that. Just
absolutely.
Whatever it needs to be flat,
and it's got specifically a pocket on it long enough for a spare set of snare wires. So it's it's really great. So festival gigs, I've got a couple of backline gigs coming up, and where I've got to park a little way away, and I don't want to have to carry, do 3 trips to the car. That turned up. I'm always very excited when they send me stuff, or I certainly have that stuff come, and it's just a great process. And it's kind of like, right, well, that's another, that's one less trip to the car. Everything's really safe. It's quite big when it's on your back, because it's got, and I've got a brass snare, so it's, it's as heavy as your snare is. Get an aluminium snare, you'll be fine. But it's just
They're super nifty.
Really great.
I popped it on my story, and I had a few people message me about, oh, they're great, aren't they? Like, just I think it's becoming quite a staple, particularly this time of year. I think with the festival gigs or backline gigs and stuff like that, where you are just like on and off in 30 minutes, between bands or whatever, or less sometimes. If you're up there with just that and your cymbal bag, that's all you need.
Really good. I got a comment when I posted about it. Mark Wogan from Ireland, and forgive me, Mark, I'm not sure if you're Ireland, Northern Ireland, but he said he's had it for years, and he's like, wouldn't be without it, and they're not really expensive. If you consider what you'd buy for a snare case and then a separate case for
a bass drum pedal case, they're much more expensive than you think. I mean, I know you can buy I think Gear for Music and do little just sort of pouches and stuff. You can get for 20 quid, but to get a proper structured side bag, they can get quite pricey. So it's really great. So that's my something new for this week. And it was nice to get it on. I literally turned up on Thursday and I used it on the Saturday. So it was new thing. And how was the gig as well? What was the gig?
It really great. It was a Montgomery Slacks gig. We were doing a kind of an all day or 1 day kind of festival fundraiser for a band that very sadly lost one of their very close fans or relatives to cancer. We were doing a kind of fundraiser gig for that to remember her, and we were asked to come along and play. So there was some real great bands on. After we came off, there was some of her friends came up and basically did karaoke to her favourite songs. So it was a real nice.
That's lovely.
Yeah. But where it was just great to be out and gigging and knowing it was turn up. I mean, there was a punk band on before us that were all wearing Mexican wrestling masks. So talk about diverse lineup. It was great. It was great. Yeah. So we got up, did our thing. I got to play an acrylic kit for the first time.
Yes, I saw that. It looked really epic.
Yeah, which I thought it was orange as well. So short of a bowler hat, I wasn't quite John Bonham, but or Jason Bonham for that matter. Great. The left hand drum before me, so I had to swap the kit over on a smallish stage with other musicians setting up was a little bit stressful. As I mentioned to you, Jay, before we came on, I really was struggling to get to the rack tom that was in a snare basket. I was really struggling to get it to tune. It was terrible. It sounded like elastic bands on a tissue paper box. We used to make those guitars when you were four. And then I realised someone had put it in the snare basket upside down, and basically up until me going on, people had been playing the Rezo head. And I thought, this is paper thin, and it had got a ripple in it.
It's quite concerning, actually. Yeah. That there are drummers that get out there and go, this is completely fine.
That's fine. Completely fine. And it had got stick dents in it. Yeah. It reminds me of the old school kit. Yeah. Picture the school kit drummers out there, and you go, exactly what it looks like. And so when I went to try and tune it and realised the Natal badge was upside down, I went, this is the Rezo head. And then when I turned it over and I cranked the Rezo head to get the ripple out of it, it was one of those ones where you needed put a hot air gun on it to really just kind of flatten it out. It wasn't just it wasn't creased because it was slack. It was already quite tight. And then I was able to get some tone out of it. But it was a 12 by 8
with a Vistalite.
Not
a Vistalite, the acrylic kit.
Yeah. The rack tom was 12 by 8, and I normally play a 12 by 10 with which is poplar. With a coated G2 on it.
So your Premier.
My Premier. Yeah. So this was a single ply clear on an acrylic kit, and it just I got the tuning where I wanted it, but just in terms of warmth and depth, there was not a lot to it. The floor toms were 14 and 16, and they were kind of pretty mega. Bass drum was 22 by 16 and was huge. In fact, it was cranked. It was sounded great, but it was almost, I had to back off it a bit because it was almost overpowering for the room a little bit. But no, it was a great experience to be able to go and play one and see what they're like. I don't think I'd go and buy one.
Don't see yourself getting one down the line?
No, Well, I mean, I love my Evans heads, but at the teaching studio where I teach on Saturdays, I turned up one week and the Pearl Masters kit in there that I was using, because it's the guy I basically teach on behalf of, his kit, he'd put Remo black dots on it.
Okay,
and I'd never played them before, but I actually quite like them.
Yeah, they're cool. They're really cool.
So I think if I could try an acrylic kit with the black dots on it for the full Bonham effect, then I'd see how that went. But I don't know what the sizes are like. But I still thought that the 12x8 was just a bit too shallow for me. I mean, I don't normally play a 13. I don't like odd sizes, but if they did a 13x9, that might be a little bit more up my street. But especially because we were playing heavy, like blues rock, progressive blues rock. Yeah, but it was okay. I mean, I didn't have to carry it there, so that's the main.
That's great.
Thing. Yeah.
Question for you then: if someone says breakables or backline kit, what are you bringing? Because sometimes that just means like bring like snare and cymbals. Sometimes you're like, is it bass drum, pedal as well? Is it drum stool? That's another thing which I had one of the weekend. I thought, do I take a drum stool with me? Like, is that breakables? Is that not? Like, what's your go-to?
Well, so my go-to would normally be cymbals. Now, it depends. Now, this was a city centre gig, so I wasn't going to go back to the car. If it's a festival and I'm pulling up at the back of the stage, I would always put in I would put a hi-hat in, and I'd probably put an additional snare cymbal stand in, just because a lot of backline kits only come with a crash, maybe two crashes in a ride.
I wish I did that the other day when I did it, and I had literally a crash and ride, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Which
cymbals in my bag I can't use. But.
For that particular gig, I used 3 crashes.
Wow.
Just sonically, because I do a lot of cymbal swells with mallets and stuff. Mm-hmm. I would take pedal and snare, cymbals, and now weirdly, I'd take a stool. I got to the car park this Saturday, opened the boot, took the stuff out. Where's the stool? Left it in my lounge. Yeah, so I did. So fortunately, there was a house stool, and because I'd kind of seen the tech sheet for the line for the set, I knew it'd be okay. I had to work out how to adjust it because I've very long legs, and it was like, oh, blimey, just okay.
If it adjusts, it's
exactly,
a risk.
Yeah. Or if it's not just been add a bolt through it and screw because it's a backline kit. So it's that quality thing. I've always sometimes if it's just for ease, and I have got easy access to the car, if it's not that kind of festival type gig, I put my hi-hat stand in, and I might make up my hi-hat off stage. Yeah. So rather than having to I can just carry that on and take the other one off. Yeah. And that's done. Sometimes I've got a cowbell clamp as well, so I'll clamp that to the hi-hat stand, and that's just all on in one go. And that's just, I know it's the right height.
So would you rather like have your stuff and just know that it's going to be what you're used to, and it's going to work? Because you could risk it. You could go, I use their hi-hat stand, I use their stool, I use their bass drum pedal, like you could kind of risk that. But
I wouldn't risk a bass drum pedal. I risk a hi-hat stand, but I wouldn't risk a bass drum pedal. I spent good money on a quite good bass drum pedal.
Same,
I'm not going to leave it at home.
And also, you're so used to it now, when you play any other pedal, you're like, oh, I wish I had my 5,000,
Yeah, that's right. And because this was a 22 bass drum, a slightly more throw on the beta, because I've not set it as low, because I want it to hit slightly. It's going to be a slightly longer shaft on the beta, so I don't want to have to deal with that and a pedal I'm not used to. Yeah. So but I would sometimes take if I got an Allen, I've got that Yamaha Crosstown hardware, so I put my snare drum stand in as well if I can, because that's set. Then put that on, take that off. Great. And then bottom line, if I've got my stool, I've got my hi-hat, and I've got my snare stand, those 3 things are all the right height, But if I'm being posh, if I'm being luxurious, then I'll take, and I've got the opportunity to, the car is a 1-minute walk off backstage, then great. Yeah. But if I'm walking into a venue where it's like there is no return, then I'm just not going to take it,
Yeah. I always think it's worth popping it in the car just in case. Whether it's a stool or hi-hat stand or those extra bits. Like if there's the opportunity, and it's not too awkward, you can just nip out and go grab your stool or whatever. Whereas if it's like, no, we're on in 20 minutes and it's people everywhere and I'm parked around the corner or whatever, it's raining or something, then you can just be like, I'll just get on with it, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I did a festival 2 Saturdays ago where they don't supply a kit, but they manage the lineup. So there'd be like a tribute act singing to backing tracks, and it's like I think it's a 15-minute, or is it a half hour? 15-minute swap over.
Yeah.
So I put most of my kit on before the previous act went on, and then they came off. So Dolly Parton was on before us. Dolly Parton and then Taylor Swift with the tribute acts, and so Dolly Parton came off, and they said, "Can you put most of your kit on between Dolly Parton and Taylor Swift?" And okay. And then when Taylor Swift comes off, all my kit's on, and it's like, right, it's just adjust stuff, tweak stuff, and like tuning, and then we're ready to go.
Well, another thing that I tend to, I learned the hard way, but I always keep a spare clutch in my rucksack now. Because I've definitely turned up to a backline gig. The last drummer's just gone off with the clutch, probably just left it on their hi-hats or something.
Wicked.
And I was like, great, I've got to play. I think that particular gig was 3 45s with no clutch. So
oh wow!
I just it was like a Sunday night packed, and there was no way I could do it, so I just did the whole thing like with the hi-hats just sort of like sloshing about and
really
that was horrible. So I definitely don't leave the house without one of them now.
No
in my rucksack.
Very good. So that's thanks for that. It's a good question on what to take. We should probably I know we advertise, we should probably say actually, Jay, that we said episode 61 was going to be a Q&A.
Oh yes,
didn't we? And we've had a 2 or 3. This is not a Q&A. We've had 2 or 3 questions come in. Well, a couple more than that actually. But because Harry's not here, we wanted to save that until Harry was back, and then we were going to answer those questions. All 3 of us get a chance to answer then. So good news, if you've not sent us a question yet,
you've still time.
Don't worry. So DM us at Count Us In Podcast and send us a question. Or if you'll follow any of us individually, myself, Harry, or Jamie, drop us a line, drop us a question, and we will add it to the list and get to it in the next episode. So yes, this is a change to the scheduled programming. I think that's what the BBC organizer would say, wouldn't it? But so we're not doing the Q&As this week. We shall wait till Harry's back for that.
Yes.
I think what we are going to talk about, Jay, is the kind of loosely described as the business of being a full-time musician, or the business of music, or the music business.
I guess kind of the more, you kind of put this earlier, like the more non-creative side of it, which is, maybe, I don't know, some people might think, this is the boring side of it, but ultimately it's what everyone has to do. Any business, whether you're a musician or whatever business you're in, you have to run it well in order to succeed. And there's a lot of and it's not what people post on Instagram, it's not the glamorous stuff, it's the planning and the communications and the spreadsheets and the tracking and your taxes and all those sorts of things. So we're not going to go into all the details of our formulas on the spreadsheets. I probably could.
I can hear people turning off as we speak.
Yeah, we won't do that. Don't worry.
Wishing that Harry was here.
Yeah, bring him back. But no, we'll just talk a little bit about what it's like to run a business on top of being a musician. I think it's an interesting train of thought for sure. You've got this was kind of sparked off a gig situation that you had about a week ago, wasn't it? Matt, so you tell us a little bit about that first. Maybe that'll ease us in.
Yeah. So
briefly describe it.
I got my jazz trio booked to do a wedding reception at. I think posted about it actually on the day, which was like a Monday, like weird lunchtime wedding. they got married at 11:30 on a Monday, and then they wanted us to play in this garden party for reception drinks and a bit later in the evening. Great. Had been liaising with one member of the family, and then I got an email from actually the bride to say, "Oh, please, can you liaise with me from now on?" And I'll go and have a. I said, "Like, great, no problem. I'm going to look at the venue." A week before the gig, and I know the venue. It's very close to my house, actually, so it's great that it was thankfully not 2 hours away. Now, shall I tell the long version or the short version? Probably the medium version. So got there. So talk about being prepped, and we talk about what do you take to a backline gig. Well, I was unsure what I was going to get when I got there, and because of the weather being a little bit marginal, I actually took a gazebo. I packed a gazebo in the car because they said they might be able to supply one. And it was kind of not like a definitive. This is with the venue, not the people who booked us. So I put one in just in case. And I'm like, how are they going to run power to the gazebo? So I've taken extension leads as well, and I'm, all these things you're going because we're playing a jazz trio with a double bass. It's not so much if it rains. It's like if we're in the sun, like double basses go out of tune over the course of 4 bars.
Yeah,
if the sun's on them. So it's about actually making sure there's some shade. Turns out, lovely setting, little gazebo for us, power supply, all prepped. Great. That can all stay in the car. It was great to bring it just in case, like we're talking about. Don't need it. Set up, spoke to the venue. Fantastic. Rest of the other 2 guys in my trio turned up, double bass and pianist. We're all set up. We've got about half an hour to kill, or maybe 45 minutes before the bride turns up, and we're going to start playing. And then across the kind of garden party area comes a guy I recognise. He's a double bassist. I said, "Oh, hello. Are you at the wedding?" He says, "Yeah, we're playing." "You're playing? What time are you playing?" Because then he looked over and saw my kit and went, "Oh, you're playing as well." We then had a quick conversation and realised that both bands had been booked to play the same slots in the afternoon. Whoops. So we'd been double booked. We'd been double booked, and we'd both been dealing with the bride, who was now on her way in the back of a Rolls Royce, expecting to turn up.
You got to decide quickly who's gonna play, because she's gonna want something.
So I then spoke to the wife. Now, as it turns out, the venue were related to the bride some way through marriage, or anyway. So I'd spoken to the owner of the venue a week before. He recognised me. Great. Spoke to his wife, who thought, yeah, you're Matt. You're the band I think we're having. Great. Spoke to the bass player from the other band. They said, "Yeah, have you got a saxophonist?" And we're like, "No, we're piano, bass, and drums trio." Oh, well, our booking said they requested a saxophonist. We've got a saxophonist. I'm like,
right.
So we had a chat. I had a chat with the double bassist from that band and the drummer who wasn't on that gig, but I also know from that other kind of setup. And we said, "Well, we'll have to organise it, sort it out ourselves." When the bride turned up, literally, she stepped back out the Rolls Royce. Her now mother-in-law said, "Oh, we've got a problem with the bands." They gave her a glass of champagne and then introduced her to me.
Wow. Goodness me.
So this is now, as we're going to talk about the business of music, this is now nothing to do with playing the drums or being good at any instrument. This is about how we are now dealing with a situation. So the wedding goes off without a hitch as much as possible. Already we're in a massive hitch as it is now. Making sure we don't upset the bride and it all become a bit of a problem and a nightmare. Organising between me and the other band that have been booked, who's going to play, when, and if either of us are not going to play. And we're just going into full-on emergency recovery mode now and liaising with people and communicating and thinking what's the best thing that's going to happen, not for us, but the best thing that happened for the party, you know.
Yeah.
So, and here's the kicker. So this band, the other band, had been paid up front. And my band, we'd not been paid.
Right.
And the bride, after we spoke to her, was of the impression she was getting a saxophonist as part of her band. So I spoke with the people in the other band and said, "Look, you've been paid. They're expecting a saxophonist. We're going to pack up as quickly as we can, and you play your sets as you required." I then spoke to the bride, and I explained what was going to happen. All this time, I'm thinking about I've got to manage this situation in a way that is as professional, absolutely as professional as possible, with some empathy, and also ensure that we're not encroaching, and we don't want to be the reason everyone remembers that wedding.
Yeah,
for the wrong reasons, you know.
Yeah.
So, so I explained to the bride. I said, by this time, bless her, she's at her own reception on a second glass of champagne with a phone in her hand, going through all her emails, trying to work out what's gone wrong.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So she then realizes that she's been dealing with me. The other family member had emailed her or messaged her a week prior, said, "Oh, don't worry, I've paid the band." She's liaising with me, thinking she's paid us, but not realizing I'm not the person that the other family members booked
someone else. Yeah,
booked another band. They've not made two and two together. So absolutely, both bands have acted in good faith. The issue was with the problem arose from the communication within the family itself. So I knew that I was on a good footing. What I was really clear and really conscious not to do was to apologise.
Yeah,
because I didn't. It was very, we were there in good faith, and it was one of those things that was out of our control and just happens. So I said, look, we're going to be as subtle as we can. We don't want to disturb fortunately, it's outdoors, so there's people milling around. It wasn't a big wedding. It was they went, it's a really nice, the restaurant's next to this venue is a Michelin star restaurant, so they're having a 6-course meal.
Lovely.
Yeah, but there's like 30 guests.
Yeah.
There's not 200 guests, there's 30 guests. So, the band represented 10% of the people there. 3 people. So we said, we'll be as subtle as we can. We'll get cleared up. And she went, oh, okay, yeah, no problem. Thank you very much. We'll let the other guys start playing as quick as possible because technically they're already late starting.
Yeah.
She then said, oh, yeah, if you don't mind invoicing me for your time, that would be great. And this is where I've now got to make a decision as someone who's not make a decision. Am I being a musician? Or am I being a business person? And without being too, cut and thrust about it, I've then got to make a decision when I'm having a conversation with her. Do I say, okay, I'll invoice you for our time?
Yeah.
Or do I say, well, I'm sorry, I've got to pay the band, the rest of the members, I'm going to have to invoice you for the full amount.
Yeah.
I chose to say I'm going to invoice you for the full amount because I was very happy that we were not at fault.
And did you say that to her sort of in the moment there?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Because what I wanted to do is sow the seed that she needs to get used to the fact that she's going to have to pay 2 bands now.
Yeah.
And then I very, very specifically didn't invoice them until the following day. And I didn't expect payment. I mean, I said, look, you've got 7 days to pay. And I didn't know how it was going to go down because, she might have had a time to think about it overnight and how much were they recognizing that they were at fault? How much were they going to say, well, it's a bit heartless for you to try and book, although they have got an email threads to say, well, look, yeah, they're committed. So I was very nervous about invoicing them. I'm going to be honest, or not about invoicing them, but about the reaction I might get and how I'm then going to manage that situation. As it turned out, within 10 minutes of invoicing her, they paid the full amount. So it was, okay, I had to manage that situation like a project manager managing an event, nothing to do with playing music at all. I then spoke, because I do know a couple of guys in the band, the drummer who wasn't on that gig and the double bassist. I spoke to them and said, look, this is what's happened. Thankfully they paid me and great. They were very concerned that I wasn't going to get paid at all.
Yeah.
And that was my risk. That was my choice to take that risk because I wanted to make sure I managed the situation really well so that there was nothing to be thrown back at me or no retribution well, you let us down and you weren't very nice yesterday and you were rude. None of that. It was about the long game in terms of trying to maintain a relationship professionally.
I think there's a lot to be said about just in the moment, just it being the focus of, look, here's my expectation, but this is all I'm saying at the moment. I'm not going to I'm not going to kind of go into the details. I'm like, it's, it's her date. She's getting married. You're not going to be like, well, actually, and you sort of, but saying what needs to be said, laying it out, like, this is the boundary, this is what is expected. But at the same time, we're not causing a fuss. We're getting out of here as soon as possible. And then, you're not upsetting the flow of the day or anything like that.
No, that's right.
And then afterwards, you can put it all in the email or whatever. And fortunately, in this scenario, they were very.
Being honest, the kind of lesson. Being honest, lessons learned really, because it was a very local gig and it was someone who'd put something out on a local Facebook page and I'd reply, send them a link, got into an email conversation. But I'll invoice them the day after the event, But, in the world of wedding gigs, it's like, well, at least 50% deposit, maybe. You do more or upfront to secure the booking. So, I've very much kind of, financially not been hit, but need to kind of take away learning from that, really. In a way, it was a bit bemused because I was like, not due to be there till 4 or 4, whatever, and I was back in the car for for 1:15. And because it was such a I was literally home at 1:15. And like, and I was quite deflated that I was so ready to play.
It
was actually, in some respects, that was a bigger kind of disappointment than actually the worry about, am I going to get paid or not?
For sure.
But how you manage that situation in a professional way, in a business-like way, that's the make or break between. And as it turns out, the venue, he was very apologetic at the end, even though it wasn't his thing. He said, "Look, I'm going to have a couple of events next year where I really like a band. Can you send me your details?" He asked me to email him, which I did, and he replied back saying, "Great, yeah, I'm just finalising the details." But I think a little bit of maybe felt bad that, I built a personal relationship with him by visiting the venue the week before.
Right, yeah.
For all I know, he may have had a conversation with the other musicians that played to say, "Oh, send me your details." I don't know.
Yeah.
But the fact that he wanted to kind of keep in touch with me, which I thought was, actually the best outcome possible.
Absolutely.
For me.
Yeah.
That was kind of, that backstory is kind of what brought us to the conversation we had internally, wasn't it? You, Jamie and Harry, about just when it's not about playing the instrument, it's about how you manage the business side of and being professional. In that sense,
I think so much of a gig, sometimes when you're on it, particularly I think with wedding gigs, can be very much just how you're interacting with the client, how you present yourself, and how you're, when you're there if you're there on time or not, and being respectable and all these things that I think, a lot of the time you just think, oh yeah, like of course we're going to do that. And, of course I'm going to turn up on time. Of course I'm going to, be respectful to the guests and the bride and groom and on the wedding planner and all this sort of thing. But, I think, and you may know this as well, but a lot of things do go wrong on wedding gigs, especially, and they're always running behind, and there's always a little curveball, or you go, oh, where are we? And they go, oh, you're there, and you're like, oh, well, where's the power? Oh, we didn't really think about that. And you got to be like, oh, okay, so can we run some extension leads, or would it be possible if we went over here? Or the bride maybe goes, oh no, you can't go there, you got to go over here, and we want it like this. And there's a lot of things, and you can, like, I've seen certain bands put their foot down, like right in front of the bride and groom, and be like, no, like that's not in our contract, like we're not doing that, that sort of thing. And it's like, whoa, okay, that might be true, but are we going to say that to the bride? right. Like when she wants something, and I do think there are times when you have to put your foot down a little bit, but I also think that you're also there to adapt as much as you can and be as accommodating as possible. Unfortunately, as the band, you're often the thing that is moved around and has to be the most accommodating of everything, like you're on when you're on, and you have to kind of mold to the day, which I think you can get a little bit frustrated at first, but I think ultimately, as long as you've kind of thought about if you've got a contract or kind of terms and things like that, as long as that's kind of there, that you can fall back on, ultimately, it's going to be about, trying to accommodate whatever you can on the day, to try and build that that relationship really well. So yeah, it's a completely different skill, skill. You know.
Yeah. So I mean, so I read it because we're in August now. So I think by the time this episode comes out, when we're going to be, it'll be almost. I've been full time 3 years, give or take a week. Come this episode.
That's gone so
gone
quickly.
quick. But I realised, in terms of my decisions about going full time, that's been covered in previous episodes and all the rest of it. But what was the process? Because I don't think I know, Jeremy. What was the kind of process for you becoming or getting to the point? So, what was day one for classing yourself as a professional musician, full time drummer, however you want to?
What is the definition, though? When I went self-employed, or
because that was how I would define it. I mean, I went from having a job, finishing, and then setting myself up with HMRC, with a business, self-employed.
Right. You did that pretty much straight away when you started. You were like, I'm doing this, and you just made the business.
Like, I finished work on the 17th of August. I was a self-employed musician on the 18th of August.
Wow.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
In fact, my first professional engagement was on the evening of the 17th, technically. I'd finished work and it was that evening.
Great.
Yeah. But I didn't know that was my only gig of that month.
Yeah,
I didn't know a lot more. But what was that process like for you? Because I don't know how that. I've never known the story behind that or the background.
I kind of inched my way in. I think I kind of found myself in it and was like, oh, I've got to set this up. I started teaching when I was about 15, and was teaching sort of friends and friend of friends and cousins and that sort of thing. In my garage basically, and I was doing 2 or 3 lessons every week, not charging a lot, it being very informal, sort of just testing the waters, I guess. And then it started growing. I kind of when I was about 16, I converted my whole garage into like a music studio with like two drum kits and all my sort of books. I had a keyboard and PA system. That was kind of like my family kind of all kind of mucked in to make that for me, which was amazing. It was kind of this is what I kind of know I wanted to do it, but also I did my GCSEs and they were like, look, if you do well, then we'll make sure we have this done. So it was kind of like a post GCSE thing as well, which was
carrot being dangled.
Yeah, a little bit. So
not bad.
So that was not bad at all. I'm very, very grateful. My parents, my dad gave up all of his tool spaces and kind of moved it all outside the garage into a little shed. Yeah, we had sheds everywhere. So I took over. But yeah, so I did 2 or 3 a week, very casually, and that just grew. And then suddenly it was like I was doing 3 hours, 4 hours a week on one evening, and then that grew to 2 days. And then by the time I think I was doing 2 pretty full evenings a week at 17, 18 years old.
Right.
My dad was like, I think you should look into at least just registering, even if you don't technically. I don't think I was earning enough to technically be over the threshold or whatever by that point, but it was going in that direction. In that I was getting inquiries regularly. I was thinking about actually I'm going to go and study drums. At that point I just got my grade 8 and I was about to go to uni and do the degree course, and I thought actually I could probably charge a little bit more than what I'm charging now. So I made the decision of no, I enjoy doing this, and I've got people inquiring a lot, so I might as well kind of make this like official. And I didn't know what that meant. I had no clue what HMRC did or what they wanted, and doing my first tax return. Dad was equally as clueless as me when sitting down to like fill it all out. So I'm pretty sure I got the first couple very wrong when I first filled them out, but yeah, like just over the years sort of it growing and you sort of slowly getting used to it a little bit, so it kind of mostly through teaching was that, and I very rarely did any sort of gigging. That built up to sort of 4 days a week at my private studio, and then I was doing sort of 4 or 5 schools as well. I did a lot of that during uni too, which I kind of regret a little bit, not from a some business point of view. That was really good, but I feel like I was very I often like rushing home from lectures
Yeah.
to go and teach. And really, I kind of wanted to be like hanging out with my mates, being in the industry, and kind of going to jam nights and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I do feel like I missed out a little bit on that. But yeah, and then that just kept growing. And then yeah, it wasn't until I moved to Wales in 2018 was when I started from scratch. Basically, I took about 4 students with me online, and then I started auditioning for bands and started doing the gigging thing. And so yeah, then the income stream sort of started separating a little bit.
Right.
Yeah, a whole new ball game at that point. But yeah, so that's kind of how I got into it. Is mostly through teaching and schoolwork.
So it was kind of bits and bobs and a migration into I'm building this into a thing, and now it's right now I can actually say I'm doing it. And then, but yeah, moving to Wales and starting from scratch in terms of no face-to-face students, that was like great, kind of a
big change. Big change. It almost feels like starting again completely.
Yeah.
And that was different that time because the income streams were different. I just got my role as a rock school examiner. I got a place in a band that was gigging 2 or 3 times a weekend. I worked in a coffee shop for a bit. I did my private teaching. So, it was that right up to COVID, sort of 4, sometimes 5 different streams of income. So it was, tracking. And, if you're in a school, they technically employ you and then you're taxed at source. And so you're getting pay slips and you've got to be like, okay, then there's tax codes involved and, all of this stuff you're just learning on the fly but then you're like, oh, I'm only in this school for a term. And then, so it kind of, it was a big learning curve when all those different little bits and pieces started coming up. So eventually I ended up, handing on to an accountant to kind of check it over for me. And one meeting, and I'm convinced they saved me like hundreds in the free consultation. It was like, oh, you could be saving money here and you could be looking at this and looking at that. And I was like, okay, this is great. And then, now she basically takes care of most things for me.
Great. I mean, I was going to come to that in terms of running a business, whether, as you said, whether you're a painter and decorator, whether you're a tattoo artist, whether you're a painter, drummer, guitarist, whatever, if you're self-employed. I think in terms of I'm not going to put you on the spot, Jamie, but we'll use this as point 1. But like in terms of top 3 tips, I think that point, because I wasn't sure whether you had an accountant, but I have an accountant, and I agree. It's like I have to pay them to do a job that I could do myself if I taught myself and I gritted my teeth for a couple of days. And I was making sure and double checking I was accurate with it all. I have a meeting with him once a year, which takes about an hour. We meet somewhere. He buys me coffee. Like that. Yeah. And we clarify, because I've just had a meeting with him last week. This week. What day is it now? Last week. To kind of box off 24, 25. So from April 24 to March 25. And clarify what I'm claiming, what I can claim, what's good, where the revenue is, am I paying the tax, paying some tax, what is it fair, is it the right amount? And again, the stuff he said, well, actually, this should be going through the business and that should be going through the business. And that fee that I pay him to do my returns on my behalf,
you make that back
more than pays
many
for itself.
times over.
And I've worked with some teachers and do concerts with them, and we work together a little bit and helping each other out with students and stuff. And I think 2 or 3 of them just kind of do self-assessment and do it themselves, but I've missed out. And I talk, well, did you do this? And did you do it? And they're like, no, didn't know I could do that. Didn't know I could claim that. And so I think there's, whilst it might seem like it's a bit of an expense, which, by the way, is tax deductible as an expense. It's a professional fee. It will bear dividends. And
actually, I've found even further value, just on the topic of having an accountant, in having that someone at the end of an email, and particularly one I've got, is very, very good. Of just like, I've got a question, and you just zip it off in an email, you get a response, and that's it. And you're like, cool, now I know. Or maybe I've often found it really helpful as well, like when I've been moving house or when I've been doing mortgagey stuff, when you're like, oh, I need this document, I'm not really sure what it is or where to get it or what it means or what the solicitor's asking me for. You can just be to your accountant, I need this, and they go, yeah, here it is, and you're like, great. So just for that as well, I would say it's worth having.
No, I agree. In terms of so having an account and doing that, in terms of another kind of key point for me is, and I know you've just talked about revenue streams there, is tracking where your revenue is coming from, whether it's a gig, whether it's private teaching, as you said, whether it's because I have a mix of schools where I'm technically employed by the school as a part-time worker, which is different to a part-time employee, different rights or lack of. Or I teach in schools, but I liaise directly with the parents, so I'm peripatetic in that. There's the gigs. I teach on behalf of someone else, so I'm invoicing another school, music school or drum teacher business. And we're not going to go into spreadsheets too deeply, or literally no one will listen to this episode. But I track on a month to month what I'm earning on what days of the month and in which pot it sits in. Yeah. So I also have a pot for corporate drumming stuff because I do a bit of that, but not very much. Yeah. And so then I can see where is it that I need to put more emphasis on the business. If I'm teaching to a point where I know what that value is a month, great. There's another value for school teaching where I'm employed. And as you say, is there a tax liability on that? So that's employed income as opposed to self-employed income. What I'm doing on how many gigs I'm getting, where are those gigs, how much each of those gigs pay. And that all tallies up into a chart that I can see over the course of a calendar year, January to December, how much have I earned from gigs, how much have I earned from teaching.
And I think that's really important, especially in this industry, because it's so seasonal. And I was looking at this week, actually, for myself, where if you track it for long enough, and the more you track it, the more accurate it is and the more information you've got, the more data you've got. But you can see this has peaked because it's been May to September and gigs have been great. And then you look at November and you look at February and you're like, okay, I need to plan ahead. I can see the trend is different there. So maybe I need to lean more into doing schoolwork or teaching or whatever. And it's not as easy as that, I think, as a self-employed individual to just be like, oh, I'm just going to do more of that. You can't magic it up out of nowhere. But there is, if you've got the foresight to kind of be able to predict those, surplus months and the ones where you're not earning quite enough, or whatever it is from that particular stream, that's super helpful as well. So
absolutely. Because if I know at the minute I don't need to advertise my teaching because I've got a tracker of kind of my wait list of people depending on where they are geographically and who I'm likely to contact. I want to do more I want to do more gigs, I want to do more session work, so I'm probably going to use my social channels a little bit more in that direction to say I'm available for X, Y, and Z, rather than teacher available. It's going to be I'm available these weekends. I've got some bookings in. I've still got some space. Yeah. So, and you're right, because you might plant that seed now, but you need to know if that's likely to be required in 3 months' time, and it's still not guaranteed you'll get bookings. No. I think it's difficult.
You have to plan ahead.
Yeah. I've been talking, so I have a kind of I'm part of Emily Dolan Davis's mentor kind of thing, and I do that. And I've been talking to her about whether, and I'm not going to go into numbers, but if I'm getting offered gigs and I'm like, well, it's not a bad gig, it's some great, and we've talked about this, great people, great music, the money's not a problem. Two of the three, whatever it might be. And I've been weighing up whether I'm free that week, I'm free that night, I could take that gig. But if I take that gig, I then can't take another gig which pays twice as much. Yeah. And if I'm playing a jazz gig, bottom line, jazz gigs do not pay what pop function band wedding gigs pay. Let's be brutally honest.
Yeah.
Am I happy to kind of take that, ring fence that date in the diary in 2 months' time for a gig that pays X when actually I could get 2X in someone might give me a call in 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
But they also might not. So
exactly.
It's the gamble, isn't it?
But that's where looking back and going, well, how busy was I 2 Septembers ago, or last September, and getting an idea for, because I don't do the wedding band thing. I know you guys a lot. People, we're in festival season. I play a few festivals, but wedding bands, I'm not that busy. In fact, I know because it's summer holidays. I've now seen a pattern where I can take a week off in August, knowing that potentially it's not other than I'm being paid because my students pay subscription. But I'm not losing a great deal of money because it's historically I'm not that busy in terms of other stuff. So it's really kind of important to get that right, have a picture of where the money's coming from and the timings of that money throughout the year. I think.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
So we've got accountancy, we've got knowing our spreadsheet, knowing our revenue streams. And what else important for you, Jamie, in terms of like other things that are
in terms of the business side of things? I think it's probably going a little bit back to what we were talking about before, and it's just the way that you're interacting with people, and it is really difficult, I think, particularly if you're playing in bands where they aren't doing it full time, or it is just something they're doing at the weekend, or they don't really mind if it's a 60 quid gig or 150 quid gig. Like they're kind of like, oh yeah, we're doing this because we love it, and obviously we are as well. But there is another side to it, is when like this is our job, so there's different stakes in it almost. And I think that the way that you interact with people when you're booking gigs or you're booking lessons and so on, but just being very professional but friendly at the same time, and trying to get that really good balance of, no, this isn't like a casual, like personally for me, I'm like, I want this to be approachable and very friendly, and I consider myself to be that, but also this is my business, and so here are terms and conditions, and this is what I expect, and this is how invoices work, and being very sort of putting your boundaries in, and saying this is how it's going to happen. And I think that what I've learned over the years is do that up front, just get it all done. Just say, here's what I expect, here's how I run it. I've learned the hard way about the making exceptions and all of that sort of stuff. I'm like, I'm sorry. I've had people just say, oh, can we do it like this? Or I can't really do it like that. And whatever, I'd prefer if we could do this. I've said, like, I'm really sorry. This is how I do it. And I need to make a blanket rule for everyone. And just learning things like that, I think, has been really important. So maybe I'd say, writing down, it sounds so boring, but like a terms and conditions type thing where you just say, this is, particularly when it comes to teaching, but it also could apply for gigging as well, if you're working with clients, but just say, this is what our relationship's going to look like. This is what you're paying for, and if you then need to fall back on that at any point, often you don't, it doesn't get messy, but if it ever does get messy, you can say, look, this is what you agreed to at the start. I've fortunately never really had to do that, but I think that just sort of laying it out front, so you've got something official, but you don't have to necessarily refer to it all the time, or sort of quote it all the time.
I agree. It's very unlikely, but you're not in a great place when you have to start a conversation on email with, as per my terms and conditions.
Yes.
You don't want to be writing that.
No.
But by although it is a physically signed thing, or an electronically signed thing, however you do it, it's not so much the fact that someone feels beholden to it or they've signed a piece of paper. It's that they know in their mind that they've kind of accepted this is you have got a contract that, because you do this for a living, and you're like, I take it seriously. And you as a student, or your child as a student, you need to understand that this is how it goes. This is not, oh, can I try it for a week and then, oh, can I pay you in a
Yeah.
couple of weeks? And
Yeah.
it has to be.
And you do learn the hard way. You know, I've made lists over the years of like, okay, when you're a beginner learner, here's the amount of time per week I think you should be practicing. Here's when you're a little bit more at the intermediate level, here's the amount of time I think you should be practicing. And I've kind of put that into even my terms and conditions.
Yeah,
to
me
just
too.
be like, look, these are the expectations. And, you know, people don't practice, but I'm not there going, you've signed this bit of paper, right. You know, you're going to be practicing twice a week, you know.
Breach your contract.
But, yeah, exactly. If I did that, I'd have no students at all.
That's right.
But yeah, like I think you need to, all those things that could go wrong, or all those things that you could have a particularly nasty case of something going on, and you're like, no, I need a fallback. I think it's important.
Yeah, I've had to chase a couple of school parents about, well, as per you've had one lesson start a term. You're supposed to pay before the term starts or the day before your first lesson.
Yeah,
I can't teach your son tomorrow for lesson 2 because you've not yet paid, and because you've gone to the trouble of putting that document in place, they know that you're not just taking it personally, or you're not just decided to. It's like, I'm chasing up on the paper that you've agreed to.
Yes, and 9 times out of 10, they're just oh yeah, sorry, I forgot.
Oh yeah, I've been away.
No worries. Yeah, absolutely.
It's but it is all. But I think on that thing of communication is in my old world is where I used to get a lot of emails, and a lot of people was expect to reply very quickly or chase you up after 2 hours. Did you get my email? You know, that corporate world I used to work in, where I was getting 80 emails a day.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, because I worked in a global position, it's like I'd deal with all the Western Hemisphere emails, or the Southern Hemisphere, and then the other part of the world would wake up and I'd get emails at midnight from Brazil. You know, so I got in it. It's this corporate habit of making sure I reply to people really quickly, and I feel awkward if I've not replied to a WhatsApp or an email really quickly. Now I need to kind of be conscious. It doesn't matter. People don't work like I do. Having said that, I think replying to people in a timely manner is important, because even if it's hi, I've got your email, thanks very much for the questions, let me look at it properly and I'll get back to you. It means that people aren't hanging on. And it also means if someone's looking for a teacher or they're looking for a drummer for a gig, they know that you're in the conversation, you're bought into it. But waiting 4 days or not getting round to replying to people,
I think after sort of 24 hours, it's like you really, I think should be at least trying to, especially as you say, like you get a message say, oh, are you free this weekend? And you go, oh, it's my day off. And I'm like, I don't really want to reply to that right now, or I'm out. And like, I think fair enough, like life happens, but also your yes or no can determine their next step. You know, maybe they need to if you can't do it, they need to ask someone else. And so you need to be proactive and kind of respect their time as well and their job.
It's so I think in terms of those, we talked about kind of finances and accountancy and, you know, revenue streams, managing revenue streams, communicating effectively, being professional, and you know, thinking about what possibly could happen and having something in place that's going to mitigate that in the first place. I think that's the best thing to try and do with that. You know, this is not a do this and you'll be successful podcast, but
we haven't got it all sussed.
No, absolutely not. I mean, as case in point, you know, the lessons I've learned from that wedding. Fortunately, it's not impacting me financially, but I didn't have a contract up front. But I'll do stuff with that, you know, and I'll put stuff in place when that comes up again. But if anyone out there's got, I think we'll wrap up, Jay, shall we? Because
let's do it.
Bless us, the two of us without Harry managed to talk for 58 minutes.
Wow!
You know, imagine if he'd been here. God. If anyone else has got horror stories or double bookings or stuff where you felt you've had to deal with a situation, hopefully professionally, or why not? Give the instances where you've had people in your band or you've witnessed a band deal with a problem unprofessionally. We'd love to hear that. Drop us a message along with your questions for the upcoming Q&A postponed episode to @CountUsInPodcast. You can get hold of us there. Thank you very much for that in advance. If you want to support the podcast and help us stay in coffee and support all the programs and the websites we use and everything, please do so. You can do that at www.buymeacoffee.com/CounterSim podcast. That's a mouthful. Got that?
Oh, that's well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
This episode will be out this Friday, which will be, he said, the 8th.
8th.
On podcasts, wherever you listen. Thank you for listening if you have done. Please give us a rating and a reviewing, or share it with a musician or non-musician friend if they think they'd get something from it. That would be awesome. And it'll also be out the following week on YouTube. So you can subscribe to us on YouTube. You'll see all the reels we put out on there as shorts, and you can see what we look like while we're talking out loud.
You might not want that. You might want to stick to the podcast
maybe
version,
not.
to be honest.
Yeah. We are assured that Harry will be back with us for next episode when he's got out of quarantine. And
worry not, dear listeners.
Yeah,
he will be back,
and he can regale us with stories of traveling the world and playing the drums. That's exciting.
Can't wait for that.
You can't wait for that. But yeah, anyone out there, lessons you've learned from being self-employed, or things you've taken from this episode, we'd love to hear from it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jay. I think we've just about got away with it. Only without
yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah.
It's great. Bye.
Enjoy wherever you listen to this. Enjoy the rest of your day. Cheers, Jay. Take care, mate. Thanks, everyone.
Catch you on the
See
next
you
one.
later. Bye.